Hey everyone, I just want to preface this video by saying that yes, I know that this week's TWAB update on the 22nd may or may not mention some sandbox-based patch notes for Beyond Light. I just worked on this video on and off for quite a while now. It's just kind of unfortunate timing that I'm only able to get it out now, but it's also for kind of like archival and history purposes as well. I will follow up on the TWAB this week if there are enough things to discuss, but if this week is a sandbox preview, then I'm sure there will be plenty to discuss. Thanks. Enjoy the video. Last year, I made a video about the state of PvP and PvE, and I don't know if you recall, but I wasn't exactly stoked on what was happening. In PvP, roaming supers, complete menace, power ammo was obnoxious, and competitive PvP, well, I mean, that one really hasn't changed too much. In PvE, Well of Radiance and auto reload were making a mockery of any difficulty in any encounter in the entire game. We are now 1 year removed from all of that. So how are we looking going into Beyond Light? Well, PvP has gotten better, and if I had to filter everything down to a few pain points, they would be mountaintop / special ammo grenade launchers, 600 RPM autos, top tree Dawnblade, and spectral blades. This isn't to say that underperforming or underused things like scouts or certain archetypes of weapons or subclasses, etc. don't need buffs, but they aren't causing problems actively right now. Keep in mind this video is from a PC perspective. Also, I'm sorry, I wrote this video like beginning of September, so there might be a couple of outdated things, but I think we should be good. PvP, much more stable experience than it was a year ago. Roaming supers got toned down a ton, and power ammo isn't nearly as oppressive as it used to be. What does still feel oppressive, or at the very least obnoxious, is mountaintop. Let me just preface this before I get into things. I had a whole huge paragraph that I prepared, said a whole bunch of stuff, but I scrapped it for what I'm about to say. I have never used mountaintop in PvP, not once, before this video, because I despise it that much. I recorded 2 games of me using mountaintop for this video, my first time ever using it in PvP for longer than, I would say, 20 seconds. Now, I thought that there'd be some sort of learning curve. Maybe people who use it have a very good understanding of the nuances, and they have practiced and therefore can maximize the power of mountaintop. I can very safely confirm that there is no learning curve whatsoever. This gun is as easy to use as I thought it was going to be in PvP. This is an embarrassment. I've gotten a lot better at fighting against mountaintop in the past few months, but I still feel like the experience of playing against it is nothing short of miserable. It's not fun to fight against, it's not fun to die to, and it feels like, to the average player, that there is very little counterplay. The counterplay amounts to hoping that you don't die to the first shot, or that you have enough health after the shot happens to kill your opponent. The counterplay is jumping in the air, which leaves you incredibly vulnerable to other players or even the person using mountaintop. You need to work so much harder than the person using mountaintop to counter, and even then, sometimes there's just nothing you can do. The gun's blast radius is so forgiving, and the in-air accuracy is so good that you can just pop shots, and if you're playing on the same map as your target, you're gonna hit them. Most mountaintop players are set up in a way to fast swap to another gun to finish you off, leaving very, very little room for error. Bad mountaintop players will spend far too much time jumping into the air, trying to find that perfect angle, and that's where some counterplay can happen, but it's still one of the worst feelings in the game to be instantly killed as you're about to kill someone aiming mountaintop at you. Against most other guns, I can pretty safely say that I either got outplayed or I missed my shots. It's not fun to die. You know, I don't want to make it seem like dying is fun, but it's a much more bearable experience to die to spare rations or the summoner compared to mountaintop. In quick play, where I imagine most people play the game, mountaintop will literally never die. which is a depressing thought if you find the gun obnoxious. It's also an insanely good PvE weapon, finding itself in many Master and Grandmaster Nightfall loadouts, but sunsetting will actually affect its performance there. But getting Mountaintop to a balanced state in PvP just doesn't seem very likely. Any change of the main perk changes the gun entirely. There's the potential to just make it not one-shot kill, which would be nice, but it is still oppressive in that form because a lot of kills are from a huge chunk of burst damage from Mountaintop and then a fast swap. If I were in charge, this would be a weapon that I would truly retire from the game when Beyond Light comes out. This is a very simple solution and the one that would please me the most, but it's definitely heavy-handed. Community manager DMG04 has stated that there might be some tuning on the way for Mountaintop, not to kill it, but to balance it. But I'm pretty skeptical of there being any sort of balance to this gun. Moving on, 600 RPM autos, or rather Gnawing Hunger, I guess, have been dominating the PvP scene, and at the moment, I'm still kind of okay with it. Autos have not been the top tier meta option for quite some time as far as all skill brackets go, and it's definitely a refreshing change of pace from the hand cannon spam that we deal with in most seasons. But after switching back to a hand cannon for a brief time, I can see where some of that frustration stems from. Gnawing Hunger is very strong, not to mention its amazing perk selection. It has insane perk options. Gnawing Hunger itself isn't going anywhere for quite some time too. 1360 power cap. When I wrote this video in the beginning of September, my thoughts were that nothing would happen in the sandbox in general until Beyond Light, and it looks like that's holding true unless we have some spontaneous sandbox change, which it's not going to happen. For now, I'm okay with 600 RPM autos having their time, you know, in the limelight, but I do expect a slight adjustment at the least for Beyond Light. I do expect them to get tuned down. Warlock Top Tree Dawnblade. Yeah, I didn't want to mention it. People are not going to be happy, but Top Tree Dawnblade is insane in both PvE and PvP. I know I'm not going to make a lot of friends by implying some tuning might need to happen, especially amongst the high skill crowd. Joke's on you though, I have enough friends. In PvP, the movement capabilities and skill ceiling are incredibly high. While I'm a fan of high skill ceilings, Top Tree just might have a little too much going for it. The energy gains are really substantial simply for getting a kill while jumping. That's mainly a PvE thing, but can absolutely apply to PvP. In PvP, the ability to float literally anywhere on a map gives a lot of freedom. Generally speaking, you do want some level of predictability when it comes to sightlines in a typical map or match. With Top Tree Dawnblade, that predictability goes out the window, and you now have to account for the fact that someone can be literally anywhere at any time, which can feel bad when you're sniped in the head from a spot that you didn't even know existed. Now, having to sacrifice your grenade to do that is somewhat of an expensive price, but the benefit, especially in more intimate settings, can be very high. Also, the damage of the heat-seeking missile that is your melee attack is a bit high given its capabilities. Obviously, the Icarus dashes are a massive part of the experience as well, allowing you to gain tons of speed because your momentum can stick around, on top of the fact that you can eat a grenade and just float. I don't mind the movement experience being a dash used to escape or chase. That's what it's designed for. But when we can start zooming around D1 Titan skate style, now we're sort of in problematic territory. I personally, this is a hot take coming in, brace yourselves, I've never been a huge fan of Destiny having these insane movement capabilities in PvP. It just doesn't really feel like what Destiny was meant to be in terms of PvP pace and combat. I don't think we should be zipping around the map at insane speeds. I just don't think the game was built for it. Little bits of mobility here and there are fine, the dash, but I don't think the norm should be learn how to skate around like a maniac or perish. Sword skating got nuked, also for Warlocks, so I don't know how much longer Bungie plans on keeping Sonic the Hedgehog Warlocks around. Side note, a lot of people are maybe disappointed that Twilight Garrison from Destiny 1 wasn't announced in the Beyond Light exotic teaser, which I guess technically is a spoiler, so sorry about that. But while Twilight Garrison would essentially even out the playing field in that every class now gets crazy movement options, that doesn't solve the problem of getting rid of or normalizing these crazy movement options in the game. It makes it way worse. Why would Bungie remove sword skating and want to slow down movement in that way, and then exacerbate the problem by adding Twilight Garrison back into the game? I think we could see Twilight Garrison come back at some point. It's not impossible, but I would think that it'll probably happen after these movement speed issues are adjusted or tuned. I would really like some more clarity from Bungie on this topic, just movement speed in general. Now, I'm not going to argue as hard for Top Tree Dawnblade for a PvE adjustment, but let's not pretend that Top Tree combined with Sunbracers isn't literally insane. The synergy that the tree has, not only with itself, but also Sunbracers, is crazy. Even comparing Titan's defensive strike to Top Tree, you need to get more melee kills with defensive strike active to completely refresh defensive strike than you need any kills to refresh your melee on Top Tree Dawnblade. Let's just say that Top Tree Dawnblade, while one of the most fun subclass branches in the game, is overtuned. And I'm wondering if Bungie plans on doing anything about that. Lowering timers, changing abilities, everything is potentially on the table here. The issue is that if you want to change Heat Rises, you pretty much have to change the entire tree because the entire tree is based on Heat Rises. Final verdict. Don't be surprised if you see some adjustments to Top Tree Dawnblade. Spectral Blades is my final pain point as far as PvP goes, although it's not as bad as Dawnblade. The main issue to me is the extremely generous range that the heavy attack gets, or feels like it gets, hitting targets from what feels like multiple meters away. It is already capable of one-hitting supers with a heavy attack and multiple players at once, on top of the fact that it can be tough to judge whether or not you will actually die to that attack based on how far away you are from the person attacking you. And while this is not as dominant as supers last year felt, it's a highlight among roaming supers right now. I would like to see the range of this ability be a bit more in line with what the animation shows, and if Bungie wants the range to be that long, then change the animation to match it. I don't understand how Sentinel Shield melee attacks can still have the hit detection that it does, while Spectral Blade's uppercut is hitting targets 3 to 6 meters in front of it, although it definitely has hit registration problems as well. I don't think the wall hacks are a massive issue outside of the super, since they're so short, but on the super, still maybe a bit of a problem there. Finally, this is a problem for all supers, but getting a full light/heavy attack combo with very little amounts of super energy remaining is also quite a large benefit. I don't see anything being done about that specifically, though. The damage mitigation is also among the highest in the game for a super that lets you be invisible, off radar, and move very fast. I know people take issue with snipers right now, flinch and all that, but I feel like that is mostly at the top end of play. This isn't to disregard the top end of play. I don't think just saying deal with it is an appropriate response, but I don't play at the top level and also do not have the knowledge of the intricacies of sniper flinch. I've certainly hit some stupid shots that shouldn't have been headshots, and I've certainly been frustrated with receiving flinch from a cross-map hand cannon hit that dealt 4 damage. I don't know what's going to happen to snipers in Beyond Light. If they don't get touched at all, I would understand, but again, I just don't really know enough to give a good answer on this. To cap it off, Dune Marchers, 20-meter range. Let's dial that one back a bit there, Bungie. Also some issues with hitting through walls, tagging multiple times. Let's turn the dial back on that one. Just to the left. Lefty-loosey. When it comes to PvE, last year I ranted hard about Well of Radiance and auto-reloading ruining any difficulty that the game has to offer. With that came sweeping changes to how buff and debuff stacking worked, and the removal of auto-reload effects from Lunafaction boots and barricades. So now we're chilling, right? Big chilling. I guess mostly, I suppose. But, to keep things short, I still think that Well of Radiance is simply too good of an ability. Its main weakness is rarely impactful. It makes you practically invulnerable to damage to the point where the only way to die in a well is via one-shot or accidentally killing yourself. It doesn't disappear on death. It outright negates 99% of danger, and you can get most of it back with Phoenix Protocol. It's insane. But at this point, I don't think anything's going to be done about it, so don't you worry. Probably nothing's going to happen, so you probably just disregard everything I just said. Scout rifles. People have been clamoring for scout rifles to be buffed to D1 levels where they were top tier options. I don't think we see a scout buff with Bungie's current philosophy. Here's why. Please tell me why, Dado. I'm desperate for scout rifle buffs. What is happening? Bungie nerfed snipers because they were dealing too much damage compared to how much risk you are taking on by using them. Therefore, the trade-off is that you will deal less damage to not put yourself in danger. Scouts deal good damage from far away. They are the primary snipers of the game. So, you can put 2 and 2 together. I'm not saying that this is right or wrong, just that this is the philosophy that I believe is currently in play. That being said, with the way that swords are, and we'll talk about them, I feel like dialing back some of that 20% sniper damage nerf would not be a terrible choice right now. Fusion rifles. Loaded question. Getting Sunset means, in my opinion, there are basically no good fusion rifles in PvE at all, and something should be done about that. Fusions are just a joke compared to every other special weapon. I'm not using a fusion rifle over Ariana's Vow. I'm just not. I'm not using it for literally any reason. Please help them. Bastion is a bit of a PvP nuisance because of how much damage it puts out. I could see Bungie toning it down a slight amount. I don't see anything happening to Yotun though. It is a meme gun. It's a meme. I don't think it's hugely problematic. It's annoying at times, sure, but that's really about it. If they don't make it one shot in PvP, it's complete trash. Rocket launchers are in a rough place ever since that cluster bomb nerf. They just haven't been very good, and even with cluster bombs, they were only good in specific situations. Ever since grenade launchers got buffed, well, they just do the work of a rocket launcher without as much of an ammo commitment. I don't understand what the appeal of a rocket launcher is supposed to be nowadays. I feel like I need to do the grenade launcher parent to child video for rocket launchers now. What do they do? What does a rocket launcher even do? Can we maybe, is putting 2 of them in the chamber an option? Maybe? Beyond Light? 2 in the chamber? I don't know. But do something. I'm actually quite happy at the range of options for weaponry as far as boss damage in raids go. There are quite a lot of options available now, and while there may be some minor differences between weapons, if you're going for anything other than a 1 cycle on something like the Garden Final Boss, you can use whatever you want, really, which I think is great. I hope that the Nightfall meta gets some slight adjustments going into Beyond Light. Right now, there's only a small handful of weapons that I would consider using in most Nightfalls, and the #1 offender is Ariana's Vow. Ariana's Vow does everything. It can be boss damage, burst damage, anti-barrier, anti-solar shields. It is almost always a good pick. Even if there's no anti-barrier, even if there's no solar shields, I would not question you if you wanted to use it in the Nightfall. But I don't think Ariana's really needs a nerf. Rather, other exotics need to be brought into this new champion system world, and this is one of the few times where I will be an advocate for boosting other exotics up instead of taking Ariana's down, although I wouldn't be shocked if Ariana's did get nerfed anyway. Holtzman made a great video on this a few months ago. It's linked in the description. In a way, some exotics already have indirectly been reintroduced into the system, with Unstoppable Pulse Rifle being able to be modded into your ARM mod slot, allowing the use of exotic pulse rifles for anti-champion needs. This is a great direction to head in, but I would just like to see a few more options per season when it comes to being able to use exotics in champion-based content for anti-champion reasons. I definitely understand wanting to push seasonal metas, though, which kind of fights against this concept. Seasonal metas are an attempt to change things up every season, which is admirable. I just don't know how receptive the community has really been to it. Anarchy is also on the list of top tier weapons. I don't think much can really be done about this other than nerfing the damage, nor do I think much needs to be done about it. I don't think it's oppressive enough to warrant a nerf, at least at the moment. I would just leave Anarchy alone. Swords, on the other hand, or should I say Falling Guillotine, are incredibly strong, and I think can be summed up with this clip. Not the greatest word placement, sorry.
No, it's still good. Because he's gonna die.
God, man. Just melted. Or maybe this one.
We still doing it with the F? Alright, well, Dato's actually, go ahead and take care of that DPS, Dato, would be killing.
Falling Guillotine is destroying everything in sight right now. Group content, solo, Nightfalls, all of Last Wish, you name it, and if you can hit it with a sword, there's a very good chance that Falling Guillotine is the best option, period. Not to mention, Well of Radiance, and to a lesser extent Healing Rift, are major enablers of swords. However, there's absolutely risk in using swords thanks to the heavy damage of a boss stomp. But outside of Grandmaster Nightfall, this stomp damage is countered by Healing Rift, or Well of Radiance, or Ward of Dawn, and the stomp knockback is countered by just swinging your sword again, over and over. Most of the time, you're going to stun or outright kill whatever target you're hitting before it ever becomes a problem, not even needing those extra tools. I think a lot of people are really enjoying swords being a part of the game again, aka being good, self-included, but I would not be shocked if we saw some movement in this area. If anything, I would like to see more perks be viable. Relentless Strikes and Whirlwind Blade are the go-to perks because they offer so much return for no effort whatsoever. Also, as if Gambit needed more reasons to get on, now every regular Gambit boss dies instantly. Have fun trying to stage a comeback now. The fact that armament mods are going away might help the situation though. Finally, a topic that probably deserves its own video, but one that I will mention here. Special Ammo Finisher, and by extension, Finder and Scavenger mods. These mods completely negate the need to ever care about special ammo. They enable powerful double special weapon loadouts in Master and Grandmaster content with ease. I ended up having a long discussion about the merits of ammo economy and management with my friends, with the ultimate question being, should having to care about ammo management be a part of the game experience? If you make ammo drops consistent enough, you don't have a need for these ammo mods, but as a result, you potentially make it so ammo management is irrelevant. You can just use whatever without having to care about using the appropriate ammo at the appropriate time. Right now, it feels like we have inconsistent ammo drops, and we use ammo mods to make the experience more consistent. So, do we just cut out the middleman at that point? It's frustrating to lose because you ran out of ammo and didn't get any drops. Sometimes it's not your fault. You literally just run out of ammo dealing damage and you don't get drops. Sometimes it is your fault. You didn't execute properly on killing a champion, you're out of ammo, you're stuck. The game also does give you ammo after a while without having any, so there are brute force ways of getting ammo, even by doing nothing. This is a pretty large topic to cover though. Just some food for thought for now. Special Ammo Finisher is very, very potent, essentially negating the need to care about special ammo usage. In PvP, I wouldn't mind seeing ammo get normalized a bit with these scavenger mods where a green brick gives you the same amount of ammo every time, as opposed to giving you ammo based on how much ammo the person that you killed had at the time when they dropped the brick. That's mainly to rein in how much special can be in play at once. I think that about wraps up the reasons to hate Datto Again video. In case you needed a little refresher, I know things have been a little slow, so hopefully that reinvigorated you. Feel free to leave your own feedback in the comments. Again, I tried to focus on big picture stuff, not go into super detailed things like this archetype of this gun with these perks needs a buff or something like that. Definitely not as frustrated with the sandbox this time around, but, you know, still plenty of room for tweaking. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.